He left his phone on the table. When he went to the bathroom, Snapchat was open. Location sharing was on. And I promise you, I was not snooping. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't even suspicious that night. We had just eaten dinner together. We had laughed together. He had kissed my forehead before getting up. But that one accidental glance showed me an address he had visited 17 times in the past 2 months. 17. I counted them, one by one, each timestamp matching perfectly. With a night he told me he had a late shift. I put the phone down, took a slow breath, fixed my face, and when he walked back in, I smiled at him like nothing happened. I asked him if he wanted more tea. He said yes. And I went to the kitchen and stood there for a moment, just staring at the wall, because something had happened. Everything had happened, and I was the only one in that room who knew it. We had been together almost 2 years, engaged for 3 months, and from the outside, we looked perfect. He was calm, caring, attentive, the kind of man who remembered small things, the way I liked my coffee, the songs that made me cry, the dates that mattered to me. He showed up every single time. At least, that's what I believed. The kind of man people trust instantly. Strangers trusted him. My family trusted him. My friends trusted him. Everyone said the same thing. You're so lucky to have him. And I believed it too. I was proud of him, proud of us. I used to look at him across a room and think, this is it. This is the person I am going to spend my life with. Because when someone looks perfect, you stop questioning them. You stop looking for cracks. Because you don't want to find any. But slowly, things started changing. Late replies, not always, just enough to notice. Phone always face down on the table. He used to leave it anywhere. Now it never left his hand. Coming home slightly later than usual. Always with a reason, always logical, always believable. Small things, things I couldn't prove, things that sounded crazy when I said them out loud. So I kept them inside. I told myself I was overthinking. I told myself I was being insecure. I told myself he loved me. And I kept dismissing it until the night I couldn't anymore. It was a quiet evening at home. Nothing special about it. He was sitting next to me on the couch. We were watching something together. His arm was around me. Normal, comfortable, ordinary. The kind of evening that feels safe. The kind of evening that makes you think everything is fine. Then his phone buzzed. Just once, he glanced at it. Something shifted in his expression. Just for a second, so quick I almost missed it. Then he stood up and said he needed to use the bathroom. Casual, easy, like it was nothing. He left his phone on the table, face up, screen still on. I wasn't going to touch it. I want you to know that. I really wasn't. Because I trusted him. Because I had spent months convincing myself there was nothing to find. But Snapchat was open, right there on the screen, and his location was actively sharing with someone. A name I recognized, not a coworker, not a family member, someone else. I picked up the phone, just to look, just for a second. My heart was already beating faster, and I saw a location history on the map, same address, over and over and over. The timestamps were right there, every single one matching. A night he told me he was working late. A night I had sat at home alone, waiting for him to come back. Texting him, asking if he was okay, and he had replied, "Yeah, baby, just busy." "Miss you. Won't be long." My hands went cold. My chest felt tight. I put the phone back exactly where he left it, sat back against the cushion, pulled my knees up slightly, and stared at the television, not watching it, just staring. And when he came back from the bathroom, he sat down next to me again, put his arm back around me, said sorry that took so long, and I turned to him and smiled like nothing happened, like my whole world hadn't just shifted under my feet. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to him in the dark, listening to him breathe, watching the ceiling. My mind wouldn't stop. That address, that name, those timestamps, 17 visits, 2 months, every late shift, every night I sat alone, every text he sent me from that address, pretending he was somewhere else. I kept asking myself, am I reading this wrong? Is there an explanation I'm missing? Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's innocent. Maybe I'm doing exactly what I promised myself I would never do, which is assume the worst without proof. So I decided I needed more before I said anything. I needed to be sure. So the next evening, when he kissed me goodbye, held my face in his hands, looked me in the eyes, and said he had a long shift tonight, I nodded. I told him to be safe. I watched him leave, and then I sat down on the couch, opened my own Snapchat, and went to the map. We had location sharing turned on between us, a feature we set up together months ago, something he had actually suggested, something couples do, something that felt romantic at the time. I had never really checked it. Not once, because I trusted him. I opened it, and there he was, a little icon on the map, not at work, not even close to work. Same address, same building, same street, exactly where his phone had been sharing to that other name. I sat there for a long time, just staring at that little icon, not moving, parked there, comfortable, like he had been there 100 times before. I didn't call him, I didn't text him, I didn't confront him that night. I just watched. I refreshed the map every few minutes. He didn't move for hours. I made myself a cup of tea I never drank. I sat in the quiet of our apartment, looking at photos of us on my phone, wondering which version of him was real. The one in these photos, or the one sitting in that building right now. I watched until past midnight, when his icon finally started moving, heading home. I put my phone face down, got into bed, closed my eyes, and when he came in quietly, trying not to wake me, I stayed still, let him think I was asleep, felt him get into bed next to me, and I just lay there in the dark, thinking. The next night he had another excuse, different words, same story, and I checked the map again, same address, same building, third night, same. This wasn't a mistake, this wasn't a coincidence, this was a routine, a second life, built carefully, running perfectly alongside ours, and I was the only one who didn't know about it, and that name on his Snapchat. I kept coming back to it. I knew it, I was sure of it, but I couldn't place it. It sat at the back of my mind for days. Then one morning, I was scrolling through old photos on my phone, not looking for anything specific, just old memories. And I came across a group photo from years ago, a birthday, a park, a group of girls I used to be close to, and there she was, standing right next to me, laughing at something, her arm around my shoulder. My childhood friend, someone I had slowly lost touch with as life got busy, someone who had come to our engagement party, who had hugged me and said how happy she was for me, who had shaken his hand and smiled, and he had smiled back. I remember thinking at the time, How nice that they got along. I put my phone down and sat very still for a long time. I started paying attention differently after that, watching him more carefully, not obviously, just quietly. The way he checked his phone, the way he angled the screen away from me, the way he laughed a little too easily when I asked simple questions. One morning, I noticed a faint mark on his neck. He caught me looking, and without saying a word, quietly adjusted his collar. No explanation, no laugh about it, no nothing, just silence. And in that silence, I felt something break quietly inside me. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a small, clean break. Like something that had been holding on for a long time, finally letting go. I waited a few more days before I said anything. I needed to be completely calm. I needed to not cry. I needed him to see that I already knew, that there was nothing left to explain. One evening, we were sitting at the kitchen table, quiet, normal, and I looked at him and asked quietly, "Where were you last night? At work. You know that?" He said it so easily, so naturally, without even a flicker. I slid my phone across the table. His Snapchat location, the address, the dates, every single late shift, mapped out perfectly, weeks of it, right there on the screen. He looked at it. I watched his face. He looked at me, and then nothing. No explanation came, no excuse, no story, just silence. And that silence was louder than anything he could have said. That silence was the confession. That silence was the answer to every question I had been too afraid to ask. I already knew the address. I had looked it up the same night I first saw it on his phone. An apartment building. Clean, quiet, ordinary looking. Minutes from his office, easy to get to after work, easy to explain away if anyone asked. I had driven past it once, just to see it. Parked across the street, looked up at the windows, wondering which one, wondering how long, wondering how I had missed it. The day after the confrontation, I drove there again. This time I didn't park across the street. I pulled right in. His car was there. Of course it was. I sat in my car for a few minutes, hands on the wheel, just breathing. Then I got out. Walked inside, found the floor, stood outside the door. I could hear a television inside. Voices. I knocked. A few seconds passed, footsteps, then the door opened. And there she was, my childhood friend, hair messy, collar crooked. A mark on her neck she hadn't even noticed yet. She looked at me, and the color drained from her face. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. He appeared behind her a second later, hair out of place, shirt not fully buttoned. A mark on his neck, identical to the one I had noticed weeks ago, and convinced myself meant nothing. The three of us just stood there. No one moved, no one spoke. There was nothing to say. Everything was already written on both of them. Every question I had ever asked myself in the dark, answered in one single moment, standing in that doorway. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't ask a single question. There was nothing left to ask. I had already done the crying. Alone at 2 a.m., I had already asked myself every question 100 times. I had already grieved this in private, before I even had confirmation. So standing there, I felt something I didn't expect. Calm, not the calm of someone who is fine, the calm of someone who already knows, someone who has already made peace with something painful before the pain officially arrived. I slowly took off my engagement ring, looked at it one last time. This small, beautiful thing that had meant everything to me. I had stared at it the morning he proposed. I had shown it to everyone I loved. I had fallen asleep looking at it some nights. All those promises, all those plans, everything we were supposed to be, gone. I placed the ring in her hand. Not his, hers. I pressed it into her palm, closed her fingers around it, and looked her in the eyes. She couldn't look back. She looked down, and I understood. She already knew about me. This wasn't something she had stumbled into. She had made a choice. They both had. I turned to him. He opened his mouth. I just shook my head. One small, slow shake, because there were no words left that mattered. And I walked out, down the hallway, into the elevator, out through the front door, back to my car. I sat there for a moment. The sun was still out. The world was still going. People walking past, cars moving. Everything completely normal, like nothing had happened. But everything had happened. And I drove home. Because some betrayals don't need your words. They don't need your tears. They don't need your anger. They just need a door closing behind you and the quiet strength to keep walking.